Ba-doop-a-doo.
Wow. Nobody interrupted me this time.
I stopped myself. God, it's so loud.
Culture owes me an apology for assuming my gender in the back.
Wow. We'll have to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he was wrong. I'm just saying he still assumed it.
Really?
Echo Casino.
Can we talk about pubes some more?
Maybe later. Maybe later.
Number 2.
I don't know about that one.
Really bad.
Yeah, I don't know where that one came from.
That was terrible.
Well, you take the good sounds. I'm left with whatever's left over, you know?
No, it's the same exact sound.
Well, no, it's a different, it's different, keys, man, like tones, or, you know, it's music.
Yeah, it is. And it is about time.
Still this old intro.
Look, his hair's about the same length in that one, I think.
Yeah, but he styled it in that one. And
He
not
did
have a
style
bob.
it. He doesn't have the little Dutch boy hairdo.
Echo, Casino.
Oh, I forgot.
Echo, Casino. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Wednesday Night Dump. My name is Scott. It's a little late. Sorry about that. 7:22 here on the East Coast. It's my fault. It really is. It is
my fault. Yeah.
Got me for about an hour.
We have a lovely guest, intelligent guest.
Thank you, Scott.
Definitely brings up, not you, no. Just brings up the class of this stream. We have the lovely, not you either. We have the lovely RM Briggs, which we love to call Raquel. How are you tonight?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is an honor to have you. It really is. I realized when we were talking about you, Culture, and I this past week, I was like, I don't think she's ever been on one of my streams, and I always enjoy listening to you on like the Pegasus. I forgot the whole name of Drew's thing, but that
Pegasus Outcast.
Actual podcast.
See, I was going to say the Pegasus Outcast. I wasn't
Really?
going to say that. Yes.
That was wrong, and that would have been wrong. No listen to that.
And
This is where we're OC bros.
We are OC bros. Anyways,
OCD bros.
It's an honor to have you on my show. I hope you have a good time and want to come back someday, because usually we ruin that for everybody.
Okay.
We're pretty good at that.
So many people I haven't seen twice on
And
here.
let's talk about the guy who usually ruins it. His name is Mad Martigan.
Hey, it's me, it's Mad. We're doing Street Spots again. Come check it out. Saturdays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Central. We're also doing the OC Bros after the dump on Saturday.
Yes, the OC Bros.
Old Henry. Watch it. It's the best Western I've seen since Bone Tomahawk, my favorite movie of the year. Vasily Lomachenko fights on Saturday. And how about them Cowboys?
Old Henry. It is good, huh?
It's it's so good.
Okay, I'm going to have to check that out. And we have the festive Red Gaze.
Hey, what's up? What's up? Merry Christmas to one and all.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna be kicking out some Christmas tunes on the channel throughout the month, so stay
Nice. Maybe maybe you should queue up that video you made of me, that hit piece. And we
Hit
can probably
piece?
Yeah, we'll show it in a little bit. Yeah, it was a hit piece.
How dare you, sir?
It was. And then we have
The one with the
Little
booger?
Boy Blue himself. Yeah, with the booger. Culture Casino.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the dump, the Humpty Dump, the one that we do in the middle of the week. Because going a whole week without a dump that's too long.
It really
Thanks
is.
for being here. I appreciate it. For those of you who have not been here before, what took you so long? And for those of you that are here now and somehow continue to show up, thank you.
That's a beautiful thing. So some channel news. I'm thinking about bumping this back to where it was around 7:30 start anyways. I was trying to
Central?
No, that would be Eastern. I was trying not to step on the toes of the Dark Council, but really, I'm not hurting them. And it's just hard to start this early with as many kids as I have. So,
Well, if you would stop making them.
yeah.
All right, Chad, how long was that before he brought up his kids?
No,
Less
you
than
and my
5
kids.
minutes.
What is, I'm sorry the baby replaced you. Anyways, 32
don't
flavors
care.
and Nick Weiser in
Nick.
the chat. I threw you a chat, buddy.
Dude, Nick and man, we had such a great stream last night for Die Hard 3.
Oh, I meant to watch that.
Oh, dude, it was such a great
invite.
stream, man.
No invite. No invite.
Yeah, we know. So it went off the rails towards the end.
That's a holiday one, isn't it? The 4th of July?
No. It's during the summer, but it's not specifically 4th of July. You're thinking of the Die Hard or Live Free Die Hard. It's the next one.
Is that one the 4th of July?
PG-13.
Live Free or Die Hard.
I thought they were going to come out with a new one. I thought he's
Yeah.
looking to shop a new one, like Die Even Harder or something like that.
Right, or before he died, he was harder because it was supposed to be a prequel or something.
Oh.
I hear that's a problem after death too, actually.
Yes, depending on where you left off. Joakim Stark is a channel member. So is Tina Bojan. Welcome to the Dump Live. She classes this place up. So does Machiny Draws. Hail the Wednesday Dump. Darth Scipio. Scipio. Why do I always do that? Even though I love Roman history. So
I would have said Scipio. Or Scorpio. I probably would have said Scorpio because I don't pay attention to their names.
That's great. Anywho, I hate you. James Hayes, as he always says, hey, Sporking News, all of your co-hosts, everyone hanging around the chat. I hope that you're doing good and feeling well today. And I do. I feel pretty good for a Wednesday. Keely Chow, it's always good to see you. Soul Assassin, one of the rebels here. Emotionally unstable amphibian. I hope you're stable today, my friend. Wookiee Supremacy is in the house.
What's up, Wook?
Darius has his own channel.
Yeah, skip right over Wook. That's the right thing to do.
No, you never skip over. He says, hey, guys, I'll be nice to Martigan. I know y'all protect that princess over here. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Whatever.
The amazing mod himself, Eric K.
He's a mod on my channel as well.
I love seeing him in the chat.
Mega mod.
He's a mega mod. He saved me that one day when I got Gary threw everybody over here, and it was like he meant to throw over all the bots too. That was crazy.
It was
Clobbering Times. Hello. How are you? Good to see you in my chat. I like that.
Captain, my captain.
Yeah.
Oh, he was causing trouble last night on Toxic Tuesday in the chat.
He knows stuff.
He's good.
He knows everything.
Can I interject here quickly?
Yes,
Sorry
please.
to interrupt everyone, but I just wanted to say hello to Darius Münchausen and to Nick Weiser. Darius. Hi, Darius. And Nick Weiser and the great Eric K. Eric, I love you. It's great that you're here. And I have to say hi to Mark D with a C. And of course, my captain, Clobby, Mike Alonso from Clobbering Times.
It's awesome to have everybody in. I love when I get different names in the chat. Like Eric stops in all the time. So is Darius. Clobbering Times, it's been a long time. So it's good to see you. Darius really is starting his own stuff up. And I really love that about him. And I love that he already knew to say putting the geek in Sporking. That is awesome. There's geeks. We talked about this backstage, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And Eric K is, again, one of my favorites. Godzillionaire is a channel member and always respect. Pegasus Octagon. Mark D, good to see you here.
With a C. Mark D with a C.
Yes, we had Mark
with a C.
Oh,
Mark with a C.
Mark D with a C was on last night with me, and I was like, hey, man, I thought you were going to be on the dump or whatever. And then Mark with a C comes in. It's some black guy. I'm like, who is this?
Yeah, two different guys. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But you know what? You get confused easily, so that's okay.
It's because of the brain injury, but that's cool.
Here we go again with our brain injury.
And being on fire also.
Oh, Katina Martin. Yeah, I was on fire. Oh, I served. Yay.
By the way, this background is very uncomfortable for
Why
me.
do you think I have it? Katina Martin, it's always good to have you here. I love seeing you in the chat too.
Katina. Good to see you, Katina. You're awesome.
Wait, did you skip what anybody about me? Hold on.
I always skip the ones about you. The lovely Sherry.
Hey,
How are
Sherry.
you?
Sherry, we're all thinking of you and sending our love and support to you, sweetheart. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I don't know what's going on, but I'm sending them good vibes too. Good vibes.
Keely Chow's here. Did you say hi to Keely?
Yeah, we
roll tide, baby. Roll tide. Hello, Keely.
Right there.
Keely's good. Liger fan is awesome too. Everybody else in the chat. I saw Mark's 47 up in the house, and a couple other amazing
Soul
people.
Assassin.
Pope.
Yeah, I said
Metallica.
hi, Soul. Pope is here. And we're gonna get going though.
Well, real quick. So Mark D asked me about the magic stream. Wookie ruined it. He sent me some video of some like magic comedian was like, "Oh, it's just like you," and it was horrible and embarrassing, and I'll never do them again. I should have stuck with palm reading.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not coming on for that.
Well, I just want to make sure I didn't miss this one. Darius, he is a member for 6 months at the hot pie level, and it says, "Hail Sporking Sporkerz." Thank you, brother.
Yep.
Good.
I try to copy those into the private when I see them.
That's where I read it actually. So thank you very much. That's one thing I still like. I say it every time. I wish that YouTube, and then I wish on top of that StreamYards highlighted that so we could actually see it. Because if you miss it, you miss it. And it's really hot. Oh my God, I love you, buddy. I'm sorry. I'm like squirrel. Go Pats, my friends. Yes, go Pats. 6-0 run right now, my friend. 6-0.
Yeah, and they're gonna run over to the Bills again in 2 weeks. 3
Yes.
weeks.
Oh
2
yeah.
weeks.
Or you're gonna be so successful in the playoffs, throwing 3 times. Yay!
We can win anyway.
If you can't stop the run,
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, those teams won't be in the playoffs.
I have to say, I respect all the Patriots fans that stuck around after Brady left.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
very
even though
much.
they were just freaking terrible.
Oh, you know what? I gotta shoot this one out. The Time Prophet, though, I do miss the robotic voice every once in a while. But Nerium, she made an awesome avatar for me, so I am going to go switch that right now.
Yeah, whip it out.
Nice.
But she says from tomorrow on, your avatar is having antlers, so she's going to update that too. She's an amazing artist. I don't know if you guys have ever ordered Bond.
I haven't, but I need to.
And this is a piece of the artwork. Hold on, let me blow that up because it is gorgeous, and we love supporting independent.
Oh, wait, hang on. I'm going to grab the traditional piece because I haven't put it in the frame yet. Hang on.
I think that is gorgeous. It's about a strong woman who has to prove herself as the alpha, and it's like she doesn't look like this at the beginning. I'll tell you that. She has to work towards it, and it's an amazing story, and I hope everybody takes the time to follow it because I believe Red, is it going to be 10 volumes at least? That's her plan.
At least that's the plan. Yeah. Bonds 2 is actually going to be launching shortly next year. For the beginning of next year. Look out for that mailing list. We'll let you know.
Thank you. This has not yet been in a frame yet, so I can still show it to everybody. That's a traditional art piece because I backed that book like a madman.
Oh my God, that's gorgeous. Yeah. So wait a minute. If I back at what? When do I get something like that?
Well,
they tell you all that stuff.
You don't have to be embarrassed how much you backed. I want to. I'll throw in some digits. I make a little bit of YouTube cheddar.
Oh wait, you guys don't even realize how much I back these things. I'm actually in the new Sunswarm comic. I mean, I'm actually in it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm there. Ask Gaze. It's amazing. It's very cool.
He's a very, very sexy character.
I am.
Are we talking about this one?
Yes, we are.
I haven't opened it yet.
Oh, it is so great.
I'm like, I don't want to open it. It's so pretty.
Oh man,
I'm like one of those dorks who like will buy 2 comics so I don't have to open one. So I'm thinking about buying another one because it's just really pretty. And like I got mad at myself for opening up Nerium's. So speak among yourselves for a second. Tell me about your day. Actually, Raquel, tell me the difference between a nerd and a geek.
Oh, here we go.
I love this.
Here we go.
Yes, there is a distinction between nerd and geek. Of course, in social science, we see a bit of study in this area. Nerd is usually carries the accumulative connotation of being an academic, whereas the geek carries the accumulative connotation of being an expert in popular culture, in film, and in collecting. So the two groups meet often, and they get along really well with one another. But certainly there is a distinction in the dictionary and in social science. And TMF just walked through the door, so I have to say, TMF, nice to see you.
And he actually dropped a super chat.
Yeah.
I love Toxic Man Flu. I don't know what he is, but he is awesome. Toxic Man Flu for $5 says, so when does Culture go through plebe week with his new frat house at Man Bun Casino?
No. Look, there are 2 reasons to put your hair up in public. There are two. First is you're going to ride a motorcycle. Second, you're going to ride a horse. Those are the 2 reasons. Any other time you have to put your hair up usually is a professional thing, so you don't end up killing yourself with your hair, right? or choking people with your hair, like in the food industry as a chef or something.
Right.
But in public, gentlemen only put their hair up for 2 reasons.
Oh God.
That's it.
Love making?
Is that in public?
Oh, well, sometimes. We have 42 people in the chat. It's amazing that we hold this many people on a Wednesday when we used to only hold about 11. So thank you guys for being here.
I've seen him with his hair up, by the way.
Like a top bun?
Yeah.
On. Why don't you do like the 2
Not
chopstick
true.
thing?
But
I think you would look hot.
So I'm a good person, despite what some people, Wookie, may say. I could have screenshot it. I could have recorded him in his man bun, because we hadn't started the stream or anything, and it was Halloween because he was changing into something sexy for me. Anyway, but I didn't do it.
Well,
Was that in
I
public?
respected it.
I'm very glad to hear that. Christian Fandom is a geek.
Fine.
It's in his name. I want everybody to know that. And he has a great
There you
channel. He's a really cool dude from England. Got to talk to him for like a short period. So DM me because I would love to have you on a Wednesday show, maybe in the new year. I think your channel is fantastic. I do try to help out newer content creators, even though people out there say I don't. But I do.
Neutered?
No, I'm neutered.
Content creators?
I am neutered. I like to help
That's like a real specific like subgenre of what we do is the neutered content creators.
The neutered, yeah. I should start a stream about that. But he is fantastic, really. Check him out. He very positive guy, very cool guy. We had a really interesting discussion. He's a black gentleman from England, and his take on racism in America, we were discussing that, was really interesting. And we really had a really good talk. And I would love to have him on for even a deeper discussion.
It is the weirdest place because, again, prior to all of the baloney sausage of the last few years, even in the most recent academic studies, 2018, 2019, we are the most tolerant country, in the entire world. We in everything. We are the least racist country in the entire world. These studies, these are academic, peer-reviewed studies that were done multiple times over many years, and the global perception because of the ridiculousness of the mainstream media.
Yeah, that just doesn't match what they feel, though.
Who cares about your freaking feelings? There's
not
facts.
mine. I'm just saying it's theirs.
Yeah, it's that's the problem. Look, the fact of the matter is, you have this handful of folks that have been lied to for almost their probably entire lifetime about this problem that doesn't truly exist. Are there pockets and small things that happen along the way in different perhaps communities, neighborhoods? Maybe.
So, very localized.
Do you not think that someone's lived experience should count for something, even
Absolutely.
if it goes against so-called facts and data?
Yes, absolutely. If your lived experience, but you can't hold a country. You can't hold a country against that.
I love it when you play devil's advocate, because you can't hold a straight face for that long enough for it to get over.
I did.
I appreciate actually that question, but then if that person's lived experience makes them think every person like that,
right,
is wrong, then that's a prejudice. That is
that's their
doesn't matter,
prejudice.
right? And that's their prejudice. Look, I'm more of a conservative guy as I gotten older. I mean, I have kids, I have people I need to protect. I work hard for what I have. So my views on government have gone much more conservative, but I am still very liberal when it comes to social things. Like, I don't care what sexuality, gender, color. I don't care about any of that.
Neither do conservatives.
It's the character, but it's most conservatives I meet, it's the character.
You're being, and that's the other problem.
A lot of liberals
you're
that I
conflating
know.
sex and gender. It's been, and that the problem is that the government did that from the very beginning here in the United States, and I know other governments around the world have as well. But that was the biggest problem, is conflating the two things. But it doesn't even matter, to be honest with you. And
they are connected.
You had to invent a bunch of other stuff. It doesn't even matter. The problem is that we're in a cycle of division, but that's, again, not ultimately the conversations we're going to have here tonight. I just thought,
it goes where it goes, man.
By the way, we sure did make it a long time before we went into politics.
I know. I told Raquel. I told everybody. But Raquel,
we have an actual academic on the panel, and she hasn't said word one about it.
I would love to hear what you thought about that, like what Culture was just saying. If you want to, or you don't have to. What are your feelings on that? What do you see America as? Does it have as a country, as a government, does it have a racial issue, or is it something that has been created and fabricated a little bit?
Well, wow, that's
a little deep. I'm sorry.
That's a huge question to start the show off with.
I know.
I think the thing is that it's a matter of appearance, and it's also a matter of laws, and racism exists all over the world.
Yes.
And of this, there is no doubt, and it's prevalent in many other nations, not just the United States. The difference is that in the United States, you have a culture where you grind that out, where you want to bring that to the forefront. You want to discuss it. There's freedom to discuss it. There's freedom to entertain ideas. And with the advent of the internet now, we even have the freedom to have access to self-publishing, and therein a lot of hyperbole. So rather than these kitchen table conversations about a country that is largely liberal, if you're looking at it as a spectrum, and they're playing out these kitchen table conversations in public now, with hundreds of thousands, and certainly even millions of viewers. And I think that's the difference. I think it's this access to digital media. And multiculturalism is very difficult for any country to navigate, because so many things are in play, so many different languages, so many different cultures, cuisines.
It's the core of America too.
It is difficult to navigate, but the most important thing is that there is a structure, a superstructure of laws that enable people to grind it out, to grind that wheat and sort of figure out where they're going to take the nation and how the nation is going to proceed. But certainly if we look at the United States and we look at access to freedom and freedom of expression and certainly civic rights and racial rights, of course, the United States is a shining example of what we can achieve together, the freedom that the world can achieve together through democracy and through laws. I just think that when you get engaged in conversation online, in social media, this hyperbole that we're using to discuss things, heightened feelings, rather than going with anecdote instead of imperial evidence, and what we do is we create this soup where we have possibility, probability, prevalence, and predominance. And I think that there's a big difference between possibility and prevalence. And that's what we're negotiating when we're doing this in front of everyone online.
I like that.
I have
Matt.
a couple of comments.
You always do.
Very generous to them. I think for the most part, you're right about it being hyperbole for for the majority of people, right? But there are so many that are out there that are influencers that have this influence, whether it be on mainstream news or through authors or through academia, that are doing it not out of like they're specifically doing it not to grind out racism, but to heighten it for their own advantage. Look at how much money the companies that set up these DRE or whatever acronym that they use, the diversity, representation, and equity firms that go into these businesses to look to see if they have any racism, systematic racism, and wouldn't you know it, they always find it. Yeah. Because then they're hired.
But the question, I'm sorry to cut you off, but the question posed by Scott was, does racism exist in the United States, and is the United States better or worse off than other nations? Mm-hmm. And so as a person who studies rhetoric and teaches rhetoric, I like to stay within the confines of the question. If you would like to expand the question to discuss hyperdidacticism in corporate IP or something of that nature, I'd definitely be willing to entertain it. But on the score of whether or not the United States is more or less racist than other nations, I think the evidence is quite clear. In the United States, you have a democracy where people are free. It's a multicultural nation where there has to be an ongoing dialogue, negotiating different languages, different cultures, different belief systems, and everyone is free to have that. So is it more prominent and on display because we have the digital verse? Well, yes, most certainly. It's not 1903 where we would be isolated in our neighborhoods and be unaware of the state of the nation. I'm Canadian, and I think, and I'm a scholar, and I think it's very important to be honest. And racism exists all over the world, and the way that it plays out in the United States definitely is exaggerated through the digital verse and people having access to self-publishing.
Right.
Well, so in my defense, I did not listen to what Scott said whatsoever.
No, you never did.
I was just responding to what I heard you say about the hyperbole. Now, I do think though that the racism is being heightened because of the focus on it. Whether it's at a even a subconscious level. I mean, even for me, whenever I watch movies now, unlike used to, I'm like, oh, I actually look at I'm aware of who is in the movie and who's being represented in the movie or whatever, when it used to never be like that. It would always just go right by because it was never a
you
focus.
Should separate those two things though, because one is a consequence of an ideological state apparatus being imposed on you by a corporation, and the other is this visceral feeling, this lived experience, your own anecdotal reality, and in that you are a person who lives in an entirely free country, a shining example of democracy and freedom, and you are talking about your experience living in that nation. And so what you would describe would be very much like having a scab on your knee. You notice you have a scab on your knee, so you pick at that scab. And so, I think there are a lot of really sincere people and a lot of really sincere Americans in politics, and even individuals, acting on their own agency, not the government. They have such wonderful intentions when it comes to race and multiculturalism in the US today. But that doesn't mean that you don't have a scab on your knee and you're not going to pick at it. Right. The very nature of multiculturalism is going to have this cyclical effect where we have to re-examine what should be prominent and what should be prevalent. And this is a part of hegemony, social dominance through power structures we create in ideological and repressive state apparatuses within a nation.
I am sorry, I had a child talking to me. Thank you guys. I missed the last part of that, but I do appreciate where you're coming from. I like the idea of the scab. That is a good way of putting it. Like, it's there, and you're gonna end up doing it. Like,
well, Scott,
it's a smart way of putting
the reason
it.
why is because we're never going to achieve a society where everyone agrees, and
Well, not in
where
your free society. You never will.
and where no one is racist.
Right.
And even if we had a society where we eradicated racism, there would still be a perception mechanism of
Right.
lived experience that would
Right.
draw that to the forefront. And this is the consequence of living in a multicultural society. We're always going to have a scab on our knee.
Yes.
And we're always going to be picking at it. But
Yes.
the most important thing to remember is that we have the freedom to do that. And many people living in extremely racist and oppressive countries around the world today do not have that luxury. They don't have the luxury to pick at the scab or to even address that the scab is there.
Right.
The fact that Americans quite bravely walk into the ball and lift up their skirt and show this nasty scab, it just makes the beauty of the ballroom queen that much better, because this is a consequence of multiculturalism. We can go and we can make societies where everyone agrees with one another, but that's not the soup that we're cooking in the United States today.
And that's a very forced.
Yes, and I'm using mixed metaphors, but
yes,
it's because everyone is so passionate. But
yes.
This is not the soup that's cooking in the United States. The
Right.
soup that's cooking in the United States is come one, come all. We're all here, but everybody wants to be in charge. And so you're seeing people struggling to articulate their anxieties, their feelings, their anecdotes, their lived experience. And this is how you shape a country to be as marvelous as the United States is today. It's a marvelous nation, a beautiful nation where people are free to create these expressions, to move to the next level of peace, harmony, self-actualization. It's great. It's terrific.
I don't think, though. I don't think this is just a byproduct of multiculturalism, because it's actually being heightened. It's being heightened by people specifically.
I was going to add, and I'm going to ask you, Culture. Well, actually, what I was just going to ask you, Culture, is do you believe that? I hear what Raquel's saying, but when you have a aggressive media, that it's not the word I'm looking for, but the type of media we have today, lining up with a certain, and I'm going to say a certain party that feels the same way, that's in charge, and colleges that follow
right now.
It all seems to be a perfect storm right now of just.
Of course, because as Raquel, because she's obviously talks about rhetoric.
Yes.
Right now the rhetoric is being utilized to acquire power. That's what's being played out right now. These discussions that we're having right now are all about power. And in this country, that's what's happening, and it's using it to displace actual conversations about the bigotry of low expectations, loss of opportunity, and all of these other things that, again, lots of poor decisions along the way created much of what we're dealing with now.
Well, this generation was educated in a university and college system that introduced postmodernism.
Yes,
which is terrible.
So certainly what you are seeing play out is hegemonic. It's hegemony. Yeah. It's this ascension of power exchange rather than egalitarianism. And I think that's why Generation X feels so discombobulated when they're discussing these issues with this generation. Is they very much had this idea, this conceptualization of an idealized future where we would have this egalitarianism, and instead what we're getting is a lot of Marxist exchange and hegemony. And certainly we see this in corporate entertainment. We see a lot of hyperdidacticism, and that's just fancy scholarly talk for saying overly moralizing. So, where the moralizing is so bad that it's hard to stand. And, and then we see this aggrandizing. And where we're experiencing this flurry of this at this time. And there's no doubt the United States isn't experiencing a cultural shift. The younger generation is very enamored with this idea of these Marxist ideas, and they're entertaining them.
Well, and it's not entertaining for the rest of us who have seen throughout our entire lifetimes and history that they are unsuccessful and usually become an authoritarian circumstance that brings on great misery and death. I don't want great misery and death, so I don't want to repeat the same mistakes of history, which is another reason why they're eliminating or changing history. But I, unfortunately, have to step out. This was an abbreviated appearance for me, and I hate to do that to you guys because it was...
Sorry, buddy.
It's a thing. But Raquel, thank you so very much. I miss you desperately. I can't wait to hang out with you again in the near future. For those of you who are not following this amazing woman around, you should be. Wherever she goes, she's incredible. Yes. And she has incredible friends that follow her around other places as well. So you guys have an amazing night. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you, buddy.
I think the problem with CT, with critical theory in general, is like postmodernism,
critical theory is completely different than hegemony. So hegemony is this idea that instead of everyone having power, what you do is you have this idea of revolution. And what you do is you overthrow the social powers of the social structures at that time, and you seize that power for yourself. So with Generation X, we had this idea of this egalitarianism. Everyone was going to be equal. We were going to live in this multicultural utopian society where everyone was equal. Now we're seeing something totally different. Hegemony is a Marxist idea where you have this revolution where you're seizing power. So if there is anything like supremacy in play, the supremacy is transferred to the social group that feels it must create revolution to seize that power. So egalitarianism says power for all. Marxist ideas of hegemony say revolution to seize power. And so these two things are very different. And so we can't stir them into the soup of critical theory.
And that's not even close to what I was going to say. What I was going to talk about is that postmodernism, with the deconstruction aspect to it, you would always get to the end to where there was nothing left to deconstruct. With critical theory, they have set things that are set, that are they see as being objective, because everything is subjective except for racism is everywhere, and there will always be a class that is that's oppressed, right? So keeping that anchor to where you can say that you can deconstruct anything, whether it's gender, math, whatever you want to take apart, you can, because and still have it there because you have that anchor to rely on, because that's never going away. Which is why you would see these cycles of postmodernism or whatever, and they would just get to the point to where like they deconstructed everything so much to where like there's nothing left. And
I think that you and I are going to have to not discuss this issue because, you're sort of stirring a whole bunch of communications theory and philosophy all into one or two words. So when we talk about critical theory, we're actually talking about a whole bunch of different types of scholars and scholarship in examining popular culture and in examining society. So we can have someone wonderful like Theodor Adorno showing us how we can reflect. It's self-reflexive. We're reflecting on how a corporation can sort of shape your feelings and your thoughts. And then you can have critical theory that's like Bell Hooks, where she's looking at white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. And then you can have critical theory where you're looking at women's rights. So when you say critical theory,
It's too much of a blanket.
Well, it's not,
don't
because
want to,
I used it as the
you,
overall
what
term.
You're saying is just pure word salad, because
Absolutely not. No.
Well,
specifically,
deconstructionism is a completely separate discipline, all on its own, and there's a difference between using reflexive mechanisms in psychology and philosophy to examine things in our culture, to examine things in our reality, and then there's deconstructionism. So, we can even look at things like semiology, where we look at signs, symbols, and artifacts, where we look at the Poirot and the langue of human language and visuals, and the way we send signals to one another, what we say and what we understand from what we say. So what you're trying to do is address it all at once, and postmodernism is a very, very big tent. It's a huge tent. It goes on forever, and it has lots of different ideas. So you can't just say the postmodernism with the deconstructionism. You're just.
But that's one of the main
mixing
tenets
into a
of
soup.
postmodernism, though. Like, yes, it is a large umbrella, but there are tenets to that umbrella that,
there
you
are
could not
not
connect
tenets.
all of those things.
There are not tenets.
They wouldn't
to
be
that
connected
umbrella.
at all if there was not similarities at some point, at some level, for them to be connected under that umbrella.
I guess what I'm trying to say, Matt, is that I don't understand what you're saying. I've studied postmodernism and critical theory at an undergraduate level and a graduate level. And so at the top of the show, we were talking about whether or not the United States is trying its best to address multiculturalism and racism and this beautiful dynamic society that's been created in the United States. And now we're sort of talking about whether or not you understand postmodernism and deconstructionism. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm sorry if this is going to sound rude, but I just don't think you know what you're talking about. And
it's over my head at this moment. Oh no, I'll be honest. This is
that's fine. I do, as far as my understanding of what I have read, I believe I have a pretty good handle on it.
Well, let's just leave it at that for now. Yeah, let's leave it at that for now, because it was the one question I was asking, and it does. I love how we will go into different aspects of things, but it's above my pay grade right now. So,
well,
and
Scott, the thing is,
I respect it though.
It's not about education. It's not about any of those. It's not about elitism or me thinking that I'm smarter than someone else.
I wouldn't even say that.
Or allowing someone.
But you have studied this.
Yes, and so it's really important that if we're going to raise an implement, because that's what that is in philosophy, it's an implement. So it's an apparatus we use to examine different information and different things in our society. So if someone was to say, hey, let's talk about semiology. How does semiology affect our ideology? What impact does it have on society? Then I would be able to engage with that.
Because that's a direct question, not a blanket.
Word salad. So it's not that
you.
I'm being rude. It's just that we need to discuss things more in depth. There is some critical theory that is absolutely the most beautiful stuff you will ever read. And it can actually help protect us from the corporatization of our lives. And we see that when we look at Adorno. And then there's some critical theory that is quite destructive. So when we look at critical theory, we need, a lot of lay people are using critical theory. They're using it in the media. Corporations are using it in their corporate writing teams, and they don't really understand it.
I was just about to ask you that.
In academia, we widely criticize. I mean, it's actually published in our volumes, in our textbooks, that one place where critical theory really lacks is that it is an apparatus. It's an implement. It's a tool. I want you to think of like a screwdriver. It's a screwdriver, and its main job, it's a flathead. It can't work as a Robertson. It can't work as a Phillips. It's a flathead. And what it does is it helps us to be self-reflexive. So we reflect on what's happening. So what ends up happening is that with critical theory, you can wind up in a feedback loop where you're constantly looking for negative things. And so many scholars, like scholars like myself come forward and say, okay, well, we know the weakness of critical theory is that it never offers anyone a way out of the negativity. It doesn't offer solutions. It merely helps identify injustice, personal injury, perceptions of personal injury. And so it's very, very negative, and it doesn't lead anywhere. It's just that cycle, that a tornado of, I can see this is bad. I can see this is bad. This is an injustice. This is awful. This is terrible. And you never get out of it. And
well,
so,
can I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry to interrupt you,
sure.
but why then implement it in a high school setting? Or even younger than that, they're trying to, like, why would you implement it in that? I understand people are maybe trying to have kids ask these questions, but are you starting way too young where they don't have enough knowledge or enough capability of understanding what these questions really mean? Like,
yes.
where are we leading this to?
Yes.
You know what I'm trying to say?
As I said on Doomcock, and I've said on Klobby's show, I do think that that children are too young for critical theory. I actually don't think that you should be imbibing critical theory or using critical theory as an implement or an apparatus, unless you have studied it and you understand its strengths and weaknesses, where it can benefit society. And where it can really damage society. And right now I see it as damaging society. Okay. So, I don't think critical theory should be taught by school teachers in the United States, certainly because of warm body laws. I mean, many of your teachers, well, some of your teachers at least, haven't even been to college. They have a grade 12 education and they're teaching children. And I also don't think that a young mind it can receive complex philosophy and decide whether or not they think it's true or it's not true. And certainly I believe in the Socratic dialectic. I think it's okay to talk about critical theory, but when we're talking about critical theory, we also have to bring in a whole bunch of other theories. And we have to sort of say, no, what does everyone else say? So the Socratic dialectic implores the person to create these rhetorical structures, beliefs, and opinions by petitioning many sources of information. So, and that's another thing that I find dangerous about critical theory is that it's a very isolated thing. Like I said, I want you to think of it like a flathead screwdriver. And a mechanic working on an engine needs more than a flathead screwdriver. So this is the problem with it. And certainly I don't think that grade school teachers, junior high teachers, or even high school teachers are able to teach that to children. And I just don't think that children have the ability at that point to create an objective opinion about critical theory. It's a very specific thing.
I enjoy. I'm really happy like you went into that because I have heard of critical. You know, I understand. I'm a very lay person when it comes to it. I've done a little research on it because I do want to be able to speak on something without feeling that I don't know anything about it. I'm just talking out my ass. But you really opened it up even bigger than I thought. I didn't realize it went as far. I knew there was positives to it, but I've always been wondering the idea of, okay, I understand there's positive critical theory. I mean, thinking of what can happen next is always to me very important. And where will that lead to? But when you take something like that and then you try to smush it into something kids can learn, like that is just such you're going to be focusing them in one direction. And I think that's what people are trying to touch on. Like you're not teaching critical race theory. You're teaching a proponent of, or you're teaching one version of critical race theory. Like, oh, we learned this. So she, this is the person who says white people should have guilt, or this is the person that says, communism is right. Like, I don't even know where I'm trying to go with this. What I'm trying to say is like, if it's such a large spectrum of ideas, you cannot put that down into a 9th grade level.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Yes, and this is my concern, which is why I took exception with this whole idea of deconstructionism, because deconstructionism is very specific. It's a very specific discipline, and so when. What would be really great is if we could get back to teaching children, critical thinking. And a really great way of teaching critical thinking is for children to learn the Socratic dialectic, to sort of say to themselves, okay, here is your idea. Now I want you to go and find 3 sources. And it's okay if 2 of the sources agree, but one of the sources must disagree. Right. And then you have to create synthesis. And so this is very important because, okay, so you have this idea. Then you go and get 2 pieces of evidence that are in favor of it and 1 piece of evidence that is against it. And as children advance, you can actually teach them to then go and find source material where those people who agree and disagree are actually engaging over that material. And then that person chooses to create synthesis from that. So this is what I derive from that. And I would love to see children engaging in that type of thinking. And it's not being taught right now. So rather than teaching graduate school implements for examining philosophy, ideology, and society, let's get kids with that foundation where they can understand what it's like to form a thought, write that thought down on a piece of paper, decide what they think about it, and then go and entertain empirical evidence from scholarly sources, from different sources, perhaps even from the media, maybe even from their local pastor or their guru. It doesn't really matter, but it's just getting them engaged in testing whether those ideas are good ideas, they're sound ideas. What are the wins and what are the concessions? And in rhetoric, you quickly learn that. You learn the strengths and the weaknesses of your argument, what you need to concede to and what you need to champion and say, oh, no, we could do this, we could do this. And so if kids are doing that, that is so good. It's so great. It's so wonderful. And I think that is a much more worthy skill. And when they get to me at the university level and they say, teach me about critical theory, teach me about Derrida, teach me about deconstructionism.
They're ready for it.
They're ready for it. Right. But let's not hop over one idea, a lifetime of education and get right into graduate theory. I think it's been very destructive for our society. I think that it has harmed children. I think that it has harmed the thinking process and people's ability to figure out what is good and how we can use education for good.
Right. And I'm glad you said that. I'm going to read some super chats and we're going to move on. But
I actually got to get going. I got to go over on ETEPS. The problem is not that they're teaching critical theory. It's critical theory is applied. It's the application of critical theory onto the way that they teach. But it doesn't matter. I don't have time to listen to 1,000 words in response. But I do got to go to ETEP. I actually have another show. See you guys later. Bye.
All right. Someone got a little butthurt. All right. Let's move on. Thank you for having a discussion. I actually think he punked out on that one. Sorry, buddy. 32 Flavors and Nick Weiser for $2 says, thank you for having RM on here, Sporker. She's cool. And I love having people that actually, I feel like probably have different views on things than I do. And I enjoy that because I learned from that. And it was something you just said that I find very interesting. Find 2 that agree and 1 that disagrees. When I was coming up in the schools, when I got to high school, I had a teacher that would force you to take the opinion that you actually disagreed with and make you win a debate with that argument. And it taught you that even on the side that you disagree with, people are passionate about it. When you start researching it, you realize why people are passage. I can't even speak today. They're passionate. Oh my God. What am I trying to say? Passionate. Thank you, everybody. About why they feel that. And even if you don't agree with them, you could start understanding why people feel that way. You can, I'm not saying empathize with them, but you can actually say, okay, I see why you disagree with me. I think you're completely wrong, but we should be able to have these conversations without it turning into an argument or without it get ugly. It can get heated. I'm fine with heated, but people need to be able to debate. And I think we've lost that feel of debating. It's now, if you don't agree with me, well, then I'm going to either try to cancel you, dox you, gaslight you, like, I think we need more of the idea where we could disagree and still get along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's important too to remember that when your kid's in school, you want your kid learning reading, writing, arithmetic. Mm-hmm. You want your child learning about government, like how the government works, geography. They're learning about their world, and starting a child off on social injustice, and making sure that you're always talking about gender, sexuality, power structures, racial theory, difference, otherness, focusing on this. When someone just learned that it's okay to raise their hand to go to the washroom is a lot to ask. I mean, the year before, that child was eliminating and defecating in a diaper. I think it's too hard. It's too fast. It's too soon. And it is important. There are some people in the chat that are extremely upset with me right now, and they're actually mocking what I'm saying. But it is very important to realize that postmodernism is a huge part of communications theory. We have phenomenology, we have semiology, we have psychology, we have sociology, we have critical theory. We have all of these things that happen in communications theory. And so if we're going to have an honest discussion about it, it can't just be an echo chamber of what I always hear on these streams. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are saying, she's talking too much. The thing is that we hear hours and hours and hours of this stuff online, of people arguing about this and gnashing teeth and being really upset. I think it's much better to come at this problem with information and education.
Yes.
Critical theory is not good. And we can't take for children. And so we cannot take that as a presupposition. So if I appear wordy, it is because I don't appreciate the presupposition. I think it's dangerous for children. And I think it's okay if we take 50 steps back and we say, no, we've been on the first floor of this issue for a really long time. Now let's go up to the 50th floor and see what impact it's having on education in children.
I think we've noticed that too. Red, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I think one of the primary reasons we're unable to really have any kind of debates anymore without it turning into hatred is just because we've experienced years and years of being encouraged to divide one another. And that encouragement turned into expectation at some point where you're like just expected to take one side or the other. And if you don't, like, there's no more middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And when there's no middle ground, there's no room for debate. You can't, that's called war. That's not debate.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I feel that I even when I debate someone who I completely disagree with, there's something I learned from them that I could take. And it might be something that I learned that I don't like, but I'll still take it from them and say, okay, I understand their passion. I really don't agree with that, but I never thought of it in that way. Mm-hmm. I feel like if you're not learning, well, I know I had he just actually passed away, but I had a buddy who always said, if you're not learning, you're dying. It's kind of funny he said that. But it's true to me. It's one of those things that, if you're not always trying to teach yourself a little bit more, and get to learn from other people, then what is the point? Because then you're just fixed. You're the old man on his porch. Get off my lawn. I don't agree with my neighbors. They're wrong. I'm right. Like, no, we should be able to, but it should be happening at a higher grade level than 8th grade. I feel like.
But what the red gaze is saying is actually getting to what I've been trying to say, and I think some folks don't realize it, but I think the red gaze does. Yeah. And that is this presupposition, or this tacit, this unspoken understanding we have that it's okay to teach our children the Marxist idea of hegemony. And I'm just saying that should be left for grad school.
I'm with you on
completely agree with the red gaze. Now it's what we're doing now is we're saying, okay, here we have hegemony. So what we're going to have is we're going to have this big revolution. This revolution is going to be great. This Marxist idea of social revolution.
Right.
And so we get to this social revolution, and it's all based on race and gender. And so what we're talking about is actually just taking the supremacist ideas. Let's give them that word. We'll use that word. And then they take that for themselves. So what you're doing is you're just transferring power, and you're creating a negative feedback loop. That will never offer society the solutions they require to create egalitarianism, to create harmony. Hegemony, it's very important. Hegemony is very popular in Marxist dialogues, in Marxist diatribes, and we're taking it as a presupposition in our discussions today. What I'm saying is that is dangerous and that is wrong. We should not just say hegemony is good. Let's have a revolution. Let's take the power. You know what's better is if we say everyone gets the same power. And let's have an egalitarian society. Let's have a Socratic dialectic. Let everyone have their say. We don't need a revolution. What we need is to love one another, care about each other, listen to one another, and create equality and equal opportunity for all. That's what we should be doing.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, that's why I've often said most, if not all, equality movements eventually become supremacy movements, just because there's always somebody there that wants the power, and those people usually have the loudest voices and the most persuasive tactics, and that's what generally happens, and it's sad.
Yeah, and I also don't like all of the, and I'm speaking now as a scholar. Normally, I actually was going to come on this show as a nerd, and I thought we were just going to talk about nerd stuff. But speaking as a scholar, I take exception to it. I think it's really sad that corporations are stoking this, that we've created an attention economy online that feeds off of this. It is affecting algorithms and therefore shaping the way people think, and people are being very negative towards the United States. Travel the world. Go live in these nations that are, one step and one fence away from war. And, there are multiple countries all over the world where you could be killed for who you love and what you think. And the United States, I think we're done. I think we should be done beating the crap out of the United States. I am one Canadian. I'm just a scholar, and I'm a Canadian. And so, what does my opinion matter? Nothing. But I will tell you
Actually, it means a lot to me.
I love the United States. And so I think, just getting on and constantly talking about this hegemony is not something I want to do professionally or personally.
Right. And but I actually think that's important, because you are not an American. You are a scholar. I think that's actually important voice to hear, because a lot of the times when someone speaks speaks in the same way that we shouldn't be going after this supremacy idea, or this it's us versus you idea, or we don't have the power, so instead of us sharing the power, I'm going to take the power from you. You're thought of as unintelligent, because even though a lot of the educated in America are saying the same exact thing, and they're saying supremacist things, like you're saying, these groups that are trying to talk about equality, but really what they're talking about is dominance.
Yes, you get it. This is what I'm talking about.
I do.
Hegemony is dominance.
It is dominance.
It's not about equality. Now do you see why I have so many problems being on these streams and these podcasts? Because everyone is taking it for granted that this is a great apparatus. This is a wonderful way of examining our culture and our society. And I'm saying it's one of many, many tools, and it's one of the most flawed tools.
Yes.
We need to stop using this unless we can use another tool alongside it. We should
I agree
engage.
with you on that.
Yes. If we're constantly looking at society through structures of dominance and who will dominate, and then that's when you have these weird things happening in our entertainment, in our storytelling, in our society. It's about that preeminence. It's about that power and dominance. And when did that become okay?
Well, that's what I don't understand. And I've been talking about, this is a lot of what my channel is about. It's the idea that it's okay because we have been the dominated class for so long. Well, now that we have control, we're going to dominate you. It's like tick for tack, but that's not the right way to look at things. You know, if you finally are starting to get an equal share, why do you need to go above that? Why can't we work together and create something beautiful? But you have this idea of, and that's our modern myths and legends are being either they're being hijacked. We're going to take your character. We're either going to make him a deadbeat father because you know what? The white male or the male father figure has always been the dominant force in this media. And so we're going to make him the bad guy, and we're going to make two transgender mothers the heroes with his name. And it's like, well, why can't we create him to be a solid, dad, and these two transgendered mothers to be solid mothers, and that they work together to make a better planet? Like, I'm just so sick and tired of that. Now that we're going to be we're socially acceptable and we're taking a step. I feel like Generation X wanted to bring everybody together and make everybody equal. And it almost, something got warped there. And it was, well, now that we finally are equal, it's our time to step on you. And that should be okay.
Well, I think what happened is in the post-secondary environment, many professors and instructors became enamored with postmodernism. And so you have these really, really densely created thought processes, these apparatuses. And I think sometimes these instructors poorly understand what they're teaching, and they don't teach it in as one of many implements. They discover it and sort of feel like, this is the emancipation we're looking for. Let's emancipate all ideas through this one idea. And it's quite bizarre because that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be engaging our students in a Socratic dialectic. We are supposed to say, hey, I can teach you about sociological ways of addressing what's happening in society.
Right.
Let's look at the different psychological apparatuses we have to look at what's happening in society today. Let's look at semiology. What are the signs, symbols, and artifacts? What is being said by this group of people? They should be teaching all of those things.
Right.
And if they're not teaching those things, and they've decided, this is the worst thing, Scott. The worst thing about it is that, like I said earlier, when everyone was, sort of really upset, is that we scholars who have studied this actually openly talk about critical theory's inability to do something positive. When you look at the scholarship of it as a mechanism, it rarely offers solutions out of the problem.
That was one of the biggest thing you said. That was like, wow, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So, you get a bunch of scholars in a room and they're all talking about meta theory. And one of the first things they're going to say is, well, yes, that's a great self-reflexive device to find things that are wrong with society. But let's go from there. Now let's get about the business of fixing it. But what we have now is a bunch of students who have been enamored and inspired by this postmodernism, mostly a Marxist hegemony, and this idea that there is going to be a huge social revolution in the United States. And for me, I think it really hurts more than it helps.
Yes.
I love people in the trans community. I know many people who are trans, but they're 0.3% of the population according to one study, and 0.6 in another. And so when we're looking at the issues trans people face, we can't use hegemony there. We can't.
Such a minute, just such a small fraction of the population.
But it's the wrong tool. Yes, it's the wrong tool, because what it does is that that tool calls on dominance. It calls on self-reflection, dominance, revolution.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is that the trans community gets cheated out of their opportunity to actually have their issues truly addressed.
Right.
And what's created in return is this aggression, especially when you have corporations that are overreacting to this, that are sort of using trans people and even using women.
Of course they are. I mean, they're trying to make money, right? So they're going to use what they think is the popular opinion of the day.
Well, think about it this way. I find, as an educated person, I find absolutely no emancipation, no joy. I receive no power, no jolt of dopamine when I see a male character turned into a female character.
Right.
Because for me, I would love to have a female character depicted as a female character. For me, in my own philosophy, I don't, anyone can believe whatever they want to believe, but in my own idea of who I am, I'm not a castrated male wearing a man's suit.
Right.
And for
that
me,
is such a perfect, we talk about this all the time. We really do.
It makes one feel as though they're standing in their mother's closet in their mother's shoes.
Right.
The shoes don't quite fit, and they want to be someone else instead of themselves.
Right.
I don't want to be a male version of me, so I don't want to be She-Hulk. And so when you put She-Hulk on the screen, I'm not going to go see She-Hulk. What I would really like much more than putting a woman, a castrated male, into a super suit and saying, "Oh, we have hegemony. We've reached hegemony."
Yeah.
Let's not do that. Let's create beautiful characters that women that address women's issues, that express women's issues, and represent women in real and perceivable, remarkable, and great ways, where all different types of women can relate to those characters and truly feel like their voices are being heard and their issues are being addressed. And that doesn't happen if you merely take a woman,
ask you, has it
put
happened?
her in a super suit and all of a sudden it's all done. Do you see how hegemony fails?
Yes. But
Hegemony
has
fails.
it happened? Has Black Widow, there was a feminine component to her abilities. But is that what we're even, I mean, it's not, I don't know. And all the others, you're right. It's like a castrated male. You're taking a male character, replacing it with a female, but yet not replacing any of the male component, just making her like Captain Marvel. She was like, there was no femininity at all. There was none of what women go through. It was just like, we can do it better than you because we're ladies. Like,
well, it's more pernicious than that.
Okay.
It's even more dangerous than that. Although I completely agree with you, Scott. It's more pernicious than that, because you know what it does? It tells little girls that in order to be powerful, they have to behave as men.
Yes.
So a masculine look and a masculine behavior represents power. And I'm here to say that not all women believe that the masculating, making something more male or making a woman behave as a male is power. Right.
100% agree. 100% agree. And I think you said it a little bit better, Red. We've talked about this how many times? Like
a million times.
Times. I mean, you even have like Jane Theory, Red, where she discussed like how they take black characters, like the darker skin female character is always the angry, more masculine one, while the lighter skin female character is usually the more feminine one. Like they've been doing this for years.
And if you take notice, a lot of the race swap characters are usually side characters that don't much matter.
Right.
Like how insulting is that?
Yeah, and think of the other things that they slide through. Let's look at semiology. Let's turn to semiology as a device right now and use it to our power for our good. Okay, and it is a form of deconstructionism, but not really. It's self-reflexive. Okay, so now let's look at the Mohawk trope.
Okay,
who have you been seeing who are women in these superhero films who always have a mohawk, sides of the hair shaved.
Yep.
We're creating these semiological devices, these
Right.
tropes.
Right.
And I agree with Red Gaze. They're not flattering.
Right.
Black women are gorgeous, ugly, fat, skinny, brilliant, dumb as a post. So
Yeah.
are all women.
Yes.
I mean, we're many things. And so I think we're more than, I think the representation of women of color in these superhero films, while they're acting like, oh, hegemony, we're going to dominate, we're going to take the power.
Right.
I'm sad to see that every single one of them can be lined up with one another in a meme, and they all look the same with this, with the mohawk, which of
Right.
course in writing, when we look at the semiology of it, we know that this is about not being a part of society. A
Right.
mohawk symbolizes rebellion, a punk, a
Taking away
person-
the femininity of the woman too.
but also implying through a cumulative connotation that this person doesn't fit in.
Right.
This
They're an
person
outsider.
is an outsider.
Yep.
Maybe they have a dark past. Maybe they color outside the lines.
Yep.
So then this becomes the trope. So in all of this hegemony, this seizing of power, this revolution, what we've done is we've actually stunted our ability to meet an entire cast of dynamic women that
Right.
reflect who women are, whether they be of color, whether they be, white, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, do you see what I'm saying?
No,
It's-
no, absolutely. So what
there's a
what do you-
dishonesty to it.
Oh, of course.
Well, if I might,
yeah, go ahead, Red.
if I
please.
might interject for a second and bring this back to a dump show for just 1 second.
Yeah, please dump it.
They think they're taking the power. They're not taking any power. What they're doing is accepting sloppy seconds.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. I mean, it's a vulgar way of saying it, but it is very true.
That's me,
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
want to be
Well, that's the dump.
No, I love it. No, I love it because you get to say the things that I wish I could say. So I love that you said that. But that's exactly how I feel.
Right.
When I think about a powerful and brilliant woman being represented as a superhero, I'm not thinking about a muscly woman with a mohawk. And
Right.
if that becomes our idea, this outsider, so we use this semiology to represent things that we're too afraid to say, then all Black women have to be, all women of color have to be outsiders with crazy hair, and they
Right.
listen to heavy metal, or they had a dark past. No,
Right.
that's crap. That's
Right.
crap. And the fact that corporations use these writing teams to create this stuff and pass it off as actual civic engagement, cultural transformation is farcical. It's
Yes.
absolutely terrible.
It truly is, and it's old. It's so old. Could we get some new ideas in there? If you want to create, can we create, like you? I love how you said it. Let us see all versions of women, but also men, and also straight. Straight men aren't always the toughest guys in the room.
No.
Like let's show all versions of. There's some badass gay men. Like they don't always have to be the flamboyant ones.
Yes. That's
there's
true. I
there's
have
so
many
much.
friends, male friends, who are gay, and they are not effeminate at all.
Right.
They are strong, hulking, cool guys. You would
Yep.
never know.
They dress better.
Until you meet his husband.
Right.
You would not know. He is just a regular cool person.
Right.
He's likely a dad.
Yes.
He's just got a regular job. This idea of propagating this idea that lesbian, gay, bi, and trans people and women have to be on the outside, tapping the glass to get in, I think is garbage.
Well, it's not even.
It's weak.
It's weak, yes. And what it is we have, we're in 2021 and we have 2021 writers still using the same stereotypes of 1985. Like they've never taken it out. Like you're still giving me the gay guy from 1985's, Revenge of the Nerds. You're still like, you're
the
not
stereotype.
Yes, it's all stereotypes.
The trope. And so when we start talking about the fact that this semiology is representation and validation for certain groups, then why are we letting the corporations off the hook by not creating dynamic representation of how people truly are? They're calling for representation through verisimilitude. The problem is there is no verisimilitude. It's basically the compendium of tropes that are well worn, and everyone is expecting them, and so it's just more of that as a hegemonic stance, a hyper-didactic, over-moralizing, picking up of the sledgehammer I call the large Marge, and saying, here's large Marge. Do you see large Marge? And I also, like I said earlier, I also don't like the idea of always making women feel as though they haven't made any gains. They haven't made any strides.
Right.
In my grandmother's time,
yes,
women couldn't vote in Montreal.
Oh, wow. When did they get the right to vote?
Really late. Later than most. And so, we have made strides. And this is another problem with critical theory and with hegemony. Like I said, like Red Gaze was saying earlier, it's the presupposition that pollutes everything, because you're not even willing to address the strides you have made so that you can grow them. It's always about finding a problem, always about finding strife, always about finding hate, and then sort of wiggling around in that puddle. This is the hate. This is the hate. Look at it. It's over here. It's over here. And it's unfortunate.
Wow, that's deep. I got to read some of these super chats before I lose them.
I was just about to tell you, since Culture isn't here, I'm going to remind you.
He's so good at that, and I'm sorry, everybody. I haven't been keeping up on the chat. It's just been one of those conversations that has opened my eyes, and like I agree with you on a lot of things, and I just think I see it in a little bit different way. But I love hearing how you say it, because it makes me want to look into different view. All right, I'm not going to even get into that. Let me read this first. All right, Mr. Tickle Trunk says you're a national treasure.
Oh, I love you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Thank you so much. Mr. Tickle Trunk, as you know, I have no desire or designs to be a YouTube star. I often think, why does anybody even want to hear a single word I have to say on the matter? So it feels a little odd to be here. I think it's cool that Scott invited me.
I love it.
But no designs on to engage in these types of discussions. Of very courageous of Scott to broach.
Well,
that.
I knew that you definitely see things from a different. I've listened to you on different shows, but I find it. I want people like you on my show. That I don't want this. Or it is the dump. We are a little cruder. But I don't always want to talk about how Star Wars screwed up again. I want to get into more. Yeah, like that booger. God damn you. I want to get into more depth and also be able to talk about the booger, which we may show in a little bit, because you just destroyed me with that. I did a video where I went around, with Geeks and Gamers and Jeremy and Drunk and a bunch of others. And the whole time, no one told me I had a booger in my nose. And Drunk definitely, or excuse me, not Drunk, Red Gaze clipped that into a beautiful little attack on me. I feel like it's an attack.
It is not an attack.
It's an attack.
All. It's a Rogue Entertainment production that's upcoming.
It's beautiful. Toxic Man Flu for $20. What we are seeing now across the world proves just how great the Constitution of the U.S. and the Bill of Rights are.
Yes.
I agree. I state the U.S. is the only country to provide freedom for its citizens that has ever existed.
Well, I feel the same way about Canada, but TMF, you already know, you and I are old friends.
Yep.
I totally agree with you. I am so utterly sick and tired of hearing how awful the United States is. I love the United States. And the fact, like I said earlier, the fact that the United States is the belle of the ball, the most beautiful girl in the most beautiful gown heading to the ball, and the fact that she lifts up her skirt to show her scab just makes her that more glorious to me. She's that much
imperfections
more
make her more beautiful.
Yes. And,
Yep.
and I think it's really important for people to start being really open and honest about the fact that when you have a whole bunch of cultures coming together, a whole bunch of different religions coming together, a whole bunch of different beliefs coming together, that's going to be difficult to navigate.
Yep.
And no one is talking about this, but they should. Multiculturalism is a big horse pill to swallow. And the fact that the United States is even willing to try says so much about a great nation trying to create freedom for all so that everyone feels heard, loved, and like they can self-actualize.
Absolutely.
And it really does need to be defended as well. Like we can't lose this culture war, anything that's going, we cannot lose this because there's nowhere else to defect to. And nowhere else. This is it.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. The idea too that people even want to curb the idea of freedom of speech. Like my dad always told me, and a lot of people have said this, but my dad always said, like the beauty of freedom of speech is, yes, you will hear things you don't want to hear. You could either walk away or you could debate that person. But the best part about it is, if that person's an idiot, he's going to make sure to tell you that he's an idiot.
Yes, and that egalitarianism supports everyone's right to say what they want to say. Whereas when we're looking at hegemony, when we're looking at this Marxist doctrine that this generation has become enamored with, that is not the case. No. That is about revolution, control, power, and dominance. And it's very important that we start openly talking about that. If they're going to use this philosophy, then we need to be honest with this philosophy. We need to be honest about this philosophy. Start openly talking about and being very articulate and having the right language to discuss why it's flawed and where it's strong and good and where we really need to dial it back and be very critical of this apparatus that we've taught the kids, and now the kids love it.
Yeah, I like that. Toxic Man Flew again for $2 says, rhetoric, is that the, wait a minute, I'm going to say this right. Am I saying this right? I'm
arthritis.
Thank you. I am so tongue-tied today.
It's okay, honey.
I actually have arthritis in my shoulder. I should be able to say it. There's certain words, like the other word for flight attendant. If I say it too fast, I have to say it slow. Stewardess. Because if I say it too fast, I'm not going to do it right now because it's embarrassing, but I get caught up on certain words. Like, all right, I'm going to say it. Here I go.
Slow down and sound it out.
No. If I slow down, I say it like stewardess. But if I say it fast, I say stewardess. I can every time. Yeah. I don't. I've been made fun of my whole life for that one.
I just want to say one thing. Please excuse me for one second.
No, please go right ahead.
It's Courtney's Fellowship of Oddballs at 46 minutes past the hour says, because Raquel's points are valid, but using these terms, you are losing your audience, and the point of being lost because you are losing your audience because you are using difficult language. Well, the thing is this, Courtney, Courtney's Fellowship of Oddballs.
What a great name. Can I say that first?
Yes.
Courtney's Fellowship of Oddballs. I love it.
I want you to know right now that I entirely agree. I certainly didn't want to come on and talk about this today. I thought we were actually going to be talking about Wil Wheaton.
She's absolutely right.
But the thing is that when somebody decides to say that critical theory is basically the same thing as deconstructionism and that it's the same thing as postmodernism, and it's someone who you find super accessible, it's really important for someone like me who studied this most of their life to be able to represent the kind of language, thoughts, and concepts that tear that apart to try and show what it really is. I think too many people are using the word critical theory. Too many people are using the word Marxism. Marxism is a very dangerous concept.
Absolutely.
And it is predicated on revolution.
Yep.
So I like to think of it as this isn't a lecture. There's absolutely no way I could have a 3-hour lecture and talk about all of this to empower people. But if you ask me about these things, it's very important for you to learn the word hegemony. Yes. And the reason why you need to learn the word hegemony is because our children, our young people who are in their 20s right now, went to university and college. They learned about postmodernism, and they have the language, they have the vocabulary, they have the diction to be able to discuss these higher-minded concepts. Right. And because of that, we should be able to engage them.
Yeah.
And so I want lay people who have no interest in this to be able to discuss it. And so we do need to learn about Marxism. We do need to learn that hegemony and critical theory aren't the only ways of examining society. Some stuff is self-reflexive, some stuff is deconstructionist, and if you're going to talk about this stuff, learn the language, and
Absolutely.
you will be empowered by that language, by that education. So I apologize, but
No, don't apologize. That is a valid point, because I've brought this up in the past, where if you disagree with these kids you're talking about, these kids that went to school, know the language, know how to use it. If you disagree with them and you're not using the same terms as them, but you're more or less explaining your feeling of where this country is going or where society is going, they label you as dumb or uneducated, and it's not the truth. I know a lot of people that didn't go to college that are very smart and have very, very good points and very strong ideas, but because they don't use the same terminology, these kids will not even listen to them.
That's right, because they feel that you're ignorant or you're a redneck, and so you get marginalized because you grew up in poverty and you couldn't afford university. And I grew up in poverty. I grew up in abject poverty and put myself through university mostly as an adult because I was working. Right. But so it's really about access to information. It's really about access to education. And unfortunately, people are going to have to learn words like didacticism, because which is just over moralizing, and people are going to have to learn words like hegemony, because we have an entire society that is dancing with the devil of Marxism. There are some things in Marxism that are good, but it's very important for us that, because it's now been put upon us to create these discussions, that we have the proper terminology, we understand the concepts that are being forwarded, so that we can make salient points back, we can make good points back, and we can be articulate and make some headway. Because yelling and screaming at each other online all the time, in total ignorance of how one another feels, just helps to create more of this polarization, sending people to the absolute peripheries of thought and sharing. And so it makes it worse.
Well, it's gotten us where we are today. It really has. I mean, you have this ultra far left and this just dug in far right. And and most of us live somewhere in the middle.
Well, isn't it funny? Was it Marco Polo? I don't know if it was Marco Polo. I don't want to create a false attribution, but someone once said, you have the left and they're completely nuts, and you've got the right and they're completely nuts, and both sides just want to kill the middle. Right. and there are so many of us that are in the middle, and it is unfortunate that we're back to entertaining this Marxism like we did in Karl Marx's age, and that people are quoting Karl Marx and that they're looking up to him, and that there are young people who are wearing Che t-shirts and they don't know anything about what happened in Cuba, and that
gets me infuriated.
And I'm not saying it's good or bad. What I'm saying is, well, yes, but I'm just clarifying that it's not that it's good or bad. It's that they've already decided, because it's become a part of their social currency. So it behooves us to make sure that we can empower people through knowledge. And if that means learning a couple of tough words, folks, this is really how you win the battle. You don't win the battle any other way than through education. And let's start with the right language. You want to go after Marxism? Let's start talking about hegemony. Let's start talking about didacticism. Let's start talking about dominance. Let's make sure that we go after Marxism in a way that is constructive and effective.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's not just young people, by the way. There's a lot of older folks I've seen who discovered the internet and they're buying into a lot of this garbage as well. Yeah. It's a spreading virus.
Yeah.
It really is. And these are the same kids wearing those shirts are the ones that want to knock down statues of George Washington and things like that, where like I always found it's hilarious to me. Yes, the man owned slaves, but he's also a man who had an army that just beat the strongest empire the world has seen in quite a while. And what did he do? He gave power back to the people. He did not take and seize control. There are not many revolutionaries that give power completely back to the people and would have walked away if they didn't ask him, to stay on. But he literally gave power back to the people instead of becoming the king, becoming the dictator, taking that power. I find that to be so disrespectful that we're doing things like that, and what they did in New York with Jefferson and Madison. It's just, we really have gotten to a place where I'm like, holy cow, where did these kids, what did they learn?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I probably learned a more patriotic, I grew up in the 80s, I was in grammar school in the 80s. So we had Reagan. So yes, it was probably definitely more patriotic, but like kids aren't even saying the national anthem anymore. They don't even know it. They don't know the Pledge of Allegiance. Like, but they do know Marxism views and ideals. And that's a scary thought, but I'll get to these.
Very trendy. Very trendy.
When trendy wins out usually.
Very trendy right now.
Yes, it is. Joakim Stark for that Kronos for $20. He says, any of you watch Arcane yet? It's good. I actually watched 3 episodes today and I was actually pleasantly surprised. And it has a lot to do with the elitist upper class and the oppression of the lower class. So it's funny that you brought it up. And the idea of revolution. Yeah, it was good. Haley Steinfeld again is the lead voice, and she is everywhere right now. But they're doing a really good job with that.
And this is one that actually does use a lot of the tropes we were talking about, but they use them correctly. They use them in a good way. They don't, they don't oversaturate it or like jam things down your throat. It's
like
just
the short-haired girl, but yet you see her softer sides. You see her lose. You see her weaknesses. But you're absolutely right. They show you those tropes.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good point, Red.
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that.
Absolutely. I've been recommending this show for those reasons, because a lot of people might look at it or look at a preview of it and say, oh, that looks woke. It's not. It's really not. Like they even walk by a couple of trans folks and they're just kind of there, because they're people. They're people. They're there in the background. They make a joke. They move on. It's not. It's great. I couldn't recommend it more.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yes, Mr. Tickle Trunk.
I love him.
You are an oasis of fresh water. You are an oasis in a desert, Mr. Tickle Trunk. This is exactly my meaning.
Why don't you read it? Because I know he loves you. So Mr. Tickle Trunk for Canadian 5.
He says there's a huge issue with people not using terms correctly, as well as mixing the colloquial and academic meanings of these terms that are not the same. And this is exactly what's going on. And it's fine to think that you can hide underneath your bed and you will never have to learn the word didactic and you'll never have to learn the word hegemony. But then you're going to grope around in a really ugly way, and it's not going to look good as you try and articulate why wanting to dominate someone instead of trying to solve a problem is what you want to do. And we should be problem solving. Dominance should not be the end game here. So, it's unfortunate that we have reached this part in our epoch, in our time, in our time frame, that we have a younger generation, and as the Red Gaze was saying too, with the advent of the internet, some older people are entertaining this idea of communism and entertaining this idea of Marxism, and it's become very, very difficult to talk about because everyone wants to label one another. No one can really say what they want to say. Nobody can really take apart the issues and address them because of fear and not having the language right. But who said this best? It was Scotty. Scotty at the beginning, he said, Raquel, should we be teaching this to kids? And I said, hell no, we should not be teaching this to kids. Right. It's the same thing about your average person, the average electrician, the average engineer, the average even brain surgeon doesn't have time to be sitting down learning about the apparatus and nuance of hegemony and Marxism.
I am that average electrician, and I agree with you because I
Yeah.
really do. Like, I know basic ideas, but you've taken it to a level where I'm like, I got to do a little more research because I don't know. I know what I feel, and I know that what I feel is because of how I was raised and the morals I grew up with. But I need to be able to stand my ground and be able to discuss it with someone like you. I am glad we had this conversation because I was keeping up with most of it, but there was moments there where I was like, okay, you lost me at that point. But then you brought it back and I was like, okay, I got you now. You know,
because
like,
these are
it's
really,
important.
really difficult concepts to
Yes.
unpack. And unfortunately, they're a regular part of our discussions online.
Yeah.
And no one really knows how to talk to one another about it because everyone has such a varying level of understanding it.
Mhm.
You know, Courtney's Fellowship of the Oddballs says, I agree with Mr. Tickletrunk, but how do people learn didactic without the basic knowledge to get to that point?
Oh.
Well, let me explain something to you, Courtney's Fellowship of Oddballs, and I absolutely love that you keep bringing the questions.
Mhm.
Learning the word didactic is very empowering for you because what it does is it uses diction, it uses language, it uses vocabulary that gets right to the heart of what some geeks are very upset about, very concerned about in their IPs. And that is this idea that the viewer is bad. The viewer needs to be instructed, but not just instructed, admonished. They need to be punished. They need to be yelled at. And that's what didacticism means. And the reason why I want you to learn that word is because I think the word woke is garbage. Not only because I teach linguistics, I teach language, but it's also because it's so imprecise and it becomes the hallmark, the calling card of people to say that you're an ist and you're a phobe. But nobody can call you an ist or a phobe if you really discuss why didacticism is bad in writing, why having a stranglehold on your viewer, your listener, or your reader is the wrong thing to do. And that's what didacticism does. It broaches it, it opens that door. Whereas woke obviously is ridiculous. It's not even being used in its proper
It's incorrect,
tense.
isn't it?
Well, there are 12 tenses in the English language, and it should be I have been awakened, or I am awake. So not only are we helping people to be even more ignorant by using the word woke, which is terrible, but we're being inarticulate. It's time for us to open up our vocabularies and learn to be precise with our language and say what we really mean.
It's so important.
Woke doesn't work. What's happening to you is called didacticism, and usually editors edit it out. No one deserves to have someone grab them by the throat mentally and emotionally and say, you're bad, you're a piece of garbage, you need to do exactly what I say in this piece or in this film or in this show. And so while you're floating around using this woke term, you know, proving that you don't even understand your own language and you can't even speak in your own language in the 12 tenses properly, but you're being inarticulate and you're giving those people a weapon to marginalize you, to make you look stupid, like you don't know what you're talking about, that you're on a bandwagon and you have no clue what you're saying. Learn didactic and use it because it starts a conversation and allows you to say what you're really thinking, what you really feel.
That is an excellent point. Just the whole terminology of woke, when it's actually, you know, precisely the opposite. They're asleep in a coma of their own echo chamber. You know, their own propaganda.
They truly are. George, I don't know what the sticker was because I can't go up that far in the YouTube and StreamYard doesn't show it.
It was a birdie flying on a rocket, I believe. I think I saw that
Awesome.
go by.
George is usually here. He's going through some stuff today, so my thoughts and prayers are with you right now, George. $49.99, dude. You didn't have to do that. I really appreciate it, though. I really do. This has been an amazing chat that has stuck with us, and that just goes to show you how people, yes, they're here to talk about Dave Chappelle and Will Wheaton, but they're also willing to sit here and learn something that maybe they were on the other side of it and not jump to another stream, which I'm going to have a discussion with that guy about. Yeah, I was a little pissed with him right now, but he's all right. He's a good kid. He's very strong. Anywho, the Gilkman for $9.99.
Hey!
There's a huge problem with disagreeing in this community. I don't agree with a lot of you politically, but I still think you all are good people for the most part. I disagree with that. I think a lot. I do. I love the Gilkman, but I disagree. I never have gotten mad. I mean, well, maybe he has a point. There might be a point on this stream, but I have never been mad enough with somebody because we disagreed on a movie or ideas. Unless you're threatening my family, I'm going to listen to what you have to say. And if you're not being disrespectful to me, I am going to listen to you and either agree or disagree. And I love the Gilkman. That's why I love him, because he's definitely much more left than I am, but he's a good human being. And I know that about him. So why wouldn't I want to listen to what he has to say? Because it might teach me something I need to learn or I needed that day. I needed to learn it that day. That's how I feel about a lot of things.
And that's a good way to look at it too. As long as somebody's not affecting you personally or affecting your finances or your business or anything along those lines, there's no reason to call them garbage or come at it from that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
But if they are,
that's
the
a different
gloves
thing.
are off.
Yeah. If you're coming after me financially, trying to, gloves are definitely
But
off.
you find this in Generation X. Generation X is very, very open to this whole idea of listening, hearing people out, and then letting it pass like water through a duck. Aristotle said, it's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought and not accept it. And so we have this idea in our society now because of this Marxism and people, falling in love with it, that you must dominate, that your opinion is right and someone else's is wrong. And it's destroying thought, communication, and our ability to think critically and act critically and in a positive way that really does affect positive change in society. And I think that if you really care about other people, that you really are looking for civic engagement that creates positive change in society, not just sitting around pointing fingers, telling people how rotten, awful, and evil they are. And that's that. This is my name for you. We're done.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct. And it's a time we all think like, my generation, Gen Xers, we like, someone put it in the chat earlier. I felt like the world was less sexist and racist in the 90s. I really do, because I felt like we all came to a point where we're like, okay, all these old cliches of, and they're not cliches, tropes, whatever you want to call them, the ideas of our parents and our grandparents, like, let's just let that shit go and let me get to know who you are, and something disappeared. And these next generations were taught by a group of people that I feel like I do at times feel like they were brainwashed into not thinking for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and whether you like the label or not, I'm hearing some people, some folks in the chat that don't want any labels at all. It's unfortunate that you feel that way. And I respect that you feel that way. But at the same time, every single pocket, every single generation has its own set of struggles and issues, prevailing opinions, things they love and hate, and things that are unique to their experience.
Yes.
And it's very important to be pragmatic, to look at the results of something and be able to reflect on it. And in as much, it really is, there really is a huge difference between what happened in the generation before in going for this egalitarianism and this utopia of trying to make society better. Let's make everyone equal. Let's make everyone feel great, to this latest generation that has now become enamored with Marxist ideals. I never thought in a million years that I would see people putting up pro-Marxist things on Twitter, and basically there are some people out there that are even pro-Stalin. It is definitely different than
Right.
what was going on in the pre-internet generation. So sorry, but them's the breaks, folks. That's reality.
Your Muslim uncle for $4.99 says, "Hail, and I know I'm late to the party, but is that the trash can from the intro, the one that came with the Slime Monster board game from the 70s and 80s? I believe you are correct. We'll have to ask Culture next week because he's the one that made my intro and this background, but I actually think you are correct, which is, wow, good eye. I'll give you that. That is a good eye.
If Culture put it together, it's probably from the 40s or 50s.
Yeah, Culture's really old. Make sure you guys all tell him that too. I want to thank everybody. This has been such an awesome change of pace. I'm going to have to change the title of this one. I'm just going to say Deep Thoughts with Raquel.
No, please don't. Like I said, I have no desire to I don't have a YouTube channel.
Oh,
I have
man,
no
we need
desire
your
to be
voice.
famous.
Change
I
it
have
to
no
the
desire-
evacuation.
Yeah, I have no desire to cultivate a big following. I don't have some sort of messianic complex. I'm
do.
totally, completely disinterested in this entire endeavor, including the attention economy and vanity metrics. So please ignore me. Pretend I was never here.
Can I say this is my favorite one of the night? Toxic Man Flu for $5 says Scott has gone 60 minutes acting like he knows what Raquel is talking about. Oscar worthy, brother. Thank you, my friend. I would say not the whole 60 minutes, but there was a good 15 minutes of it. I sat there and went, okay, where's my dictionary? But it's worth it. It's worth it. I love him. He is hilarious. Mr. Tickle Trunk for another $5 says, a well-endowed puppet is considered well-strung. Went too long without a dick joke on the dump. Now that my super chat is over, please continue. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah. It's a pretty profound opening statement.
Yes.
A well-endowed puppet is considered well-strung. If we could take away the double entendre, if we could remove the sexual connotations from that, boy, says a lot about being a puppet, and certainly says a lot about this idea of Marxism and
way to spin that one. I like it.
Yeah, but love it, Mr. Tickle Trunk. You know that already, though.
He's always on point. Macallum draws for $10. The problem is that you can act like you're fighting the system or have this revolutionist mentality while you're fully behind these corporations. Mm-hmm. Yes, hypocrisy and ignorance at the highest order.
Yeah, right. Isn't it strange?
That's Hollywood.
How is it pronounced? Not Makini?
I say Makini. Yeah, Makini or
okay,
Makini.
I totally agree. Yeah, here where intellectuals now are beginning to pen all of these articles and papers saying, where is all the original material? Why has America fallen out of love with making beautiful stories? Why do they want to go to the comfort of these reboots and so on and so forth? So it is very corporate, isn't it? It's like almost like little Oliver Twist when he goes and says, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" You're supping mush, and it's very corporate. They have almost completely successfly corporatized storytelling to the point where people have given into it. Yeah. Makini, I think
Makini's always on my show.
I love your comment. And it's brilliant. And not only is it brilliant, but it's so true. There is a great hypocrisy and ignorance in supping the corporate mush at the expense of storytelling, but then acting self-righteous about it as though you have done something to change society writ large. Certainly they haven't. No. At all. So great comments, sir.
Yes, he is a fantastic YouTuber, great artist, and a friend. And the funny thing is that's what I think of, like what he just said there is when it's Pride Month and everybody comes out with the rainbow colored, Starbucks and this and that. And the minute Pride Month's off, we're back to where we were. They pretend to down deep, I feel like the people that are there want to support it, but are they truly supporting it, or are they making money off of it?
You're making money, man.
Thank you.
That is an issue.
Yes, it really
is
is.
an issue. I mean, it's a dirty little fact that that is very difficult to tackle without creating something very, socially and intellectually violent. But it's true.
Yep.
There is a level of exploitation happening here, and it's not pleasant, is it?
No,
some people are aware of it, and some people are in complete denial that it's happening.
I'm with you on that. And Machini again for $10. Thank you, Mach. You didn't have to do that. The next one's his too. The huge problem is with these characters. They want them to be strong and perfect, but still be oppressed by, and I'm not sugarcoating it, white characters. It's a huge contradiction. Machini, I mean, you always come with it, honestly. And Machini's, he's a black man. And what kills me is like a lot of people when he's talking and when he's bringing, they're shocked. That's why we always joke when he shows him like a hand on camera. We're like, oh my God, Machini, you're black. Because we get those comments. And it's like, why? Because he speaks a certain way or has a certain thought or, that is what we're talking about. We have to break from these ideas of who a person is by what they look like.
Toxic Man Flu says the only reason I stayed with the stream is to defend Raquel, who was unfairly thrown into an uncomfortable situation. TMF, you and I have been friends for a few years now. I love you so much, and I appreciate your loyalty. And I'm quite a loyal friend to you. So thank you so much for staying with us and for being my knight in shining armor. I remember many times on the Pegasus Actual podcast when you were wrenching. You were my knight in shining armor, and I do love you very much. Mwah,
yeah,
mwah.
I love him too. And I'm sorry if it went like we weren't planning on this. The question took its turn. I would love to have you back at a later date and actually talk about that stuff. But
sure.
like large asteroids, we might get hit by a large asteroid, people, by Christmas. I wanted to cover that, but we didn't.
Well, I think that's because that was on a lot of people's Christmas list. They want that asteroid for Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh crap. Machini again for $5 says it's a major issue going on right now. Purposefully blind ignorance that the fact that to make a character human, humans have flaws. He's nailing it right now. He keeps nailing it, and he's absolutely right. And these are the things we've been arguing with people and creatives for so long, and they call us names, and all we want is reality.
Yeah, and that's just it, and that's why I'm speaking out. And trust me, I'm from the left. And I'm a professor. I teach post-secondary, and I can definitely tell you that what I'm saying is not well received in many corners of the left. But I'm going to speak the truth as I see it, and I think it's very wrong to not listen to one another or to marginalize folks and make them to make it appear as though they're stupid, they're ignorant, they're bigoted, or they're this or they're that or they're the other, when something very clearly political is happening here, and that is what is pulling the strings, to use Mr. Tickletrunk's puppet metaphor. And that's what's going on here, and I just want to be I think people should be really super upfront about it. And I have lots of friends on the right, and I have lots of friends in the middle, and I always listen to them. What they say is valid, and they are not all ists and phobes, and this rhetoric that is being taught by the extreme left is not without fault. And it needs to be heavily, heavily criticized by everyone, left, middle, right.
Right. I'm with you on that. Toxic Man Flu for another $5 says, we will never obtain the utopian goal, but the fact we allow all to walk with us on the journey is what truly matters.
Yes.
That is what I taught my kids, and that's what I teach accept people for who they are, judge them by the character. judge
And
them
there's
by
that
their
idea
character.
again of egalitarianism and hope. It's
Yeah.
this idea that we already know we're never going to reach this utopia. Do you notice how
Absolutely.
my friend TMF, my friend Toxic Man Flu, doesn't come from a place where he wants to seize the power of others,
Right.
to dominate? What he's
Right.
saying is that we should have such lofty goals. Our goals should be so beautiful
Mhm.
and so wonderful for everyone that there's no way we could possibly attain those goals.
Right.
But we should strive for those goals, strive
Right.
for that harmony, that loving kindness, to create this equality in this multicultural society, to listen to one another. It's
Yep.
quite beautiful. And
It
but
is.
in as much, Toxic Man Flu is being far more honest than most people are online
Mhm.
today.
Isn't that the truth? I wish people were more honest and didn't just want a virtue single or just, make them seem like they are the pinnacle of whatever side they choose. Let's just be honest that none of us, we all go through life a little blind. We learn from our mistakes. We keep moving on, and we hope that the generation after us does a better job. And hope you teach your children to be good people and again, judge people by who they are, not how they look or, always what they think, but how they act towards others. That's a huge thing too, is how you act towards others. I try to teach my kids. The Guilt Man for $4.99. I think the key to winning is that when you disagree with someone, you don't label them as woke or racist or something else. You have a discussion. And I think that's what we've been saying a lot tonight.
Yeah.
It's awesome. The Toxic Man flew for another $5. Question for Rick. Wesley Crusher. Okay. All right.
This is an inside joke.
All right, then
Everyone, you should know Toxic
read it.
Man Flu is a huge Star Trek fan.
Okay, so is it Crusher or Lazarus? Or Lazar?
Or Lazarus. Which is the worst character in Star Trek? I say Wesley because he doesn't fall off things.
Okay, I know Wesley. All right. Who's the other character?
He's a character from TOS in an episode that is hated amongst Star Trek fans.
Okay, what is the episode? Because I've been watching. I started it because I never watched it as a kid. I'm loving it actually. But what episode was that?
The Alternative Factor.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say right now that Tox thinks that Wesley is the worst character, but he is making a joke here. The only difference between the suck of Wesley Crusher,
the
who
suck
is
of him,
the pure, unadulterated suck of him, as a self-insert that was abused by the writers sucking up to their boss. Talk about brown nosing. And Lazarus, one of the worst written episodes in the history of Star Trek. The only difference is that Lazarus is entertaining because he falls off things.
That's fantastic.
This is beautiful. I think that this is nearly poetic. I'm gonna defer to TMF on this one and say abso-effing-lutely. I say it's Wesley because he doesn't fall off things. But if Lazarus did not fall off things, we would have a contest.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. He is one of my favorite, and also Mr. Tickle Trunk is one of my favorite for $5. I've changed my mind. Don't listen to this woman. I am not the oasis to come to if you need brain water.
Oh my goodness. Somebody hashtag that. Where's Parrot Head? Hashtag brain water. I love that. I
think Parrot Head was here earlier. I love Parrot Head.
Yeah.
Usually I'm really bad about checking anything but StreamYard, like what I'm on when I'm streaming, and he always sends me pictures. And like afterwards, after I like stop the stream, I go back, I'm like, God dang it, Parrot Head, I wish I looked at that. He always sends me the most bizarre memes and stuff. It's so fantastic.
That's not all he sends you.
No, yeah, I know. Blue-eyed Roof Korean, the base for $2 says, thought Raquel was chirping on Mount Kilimanjaro.
Lead us up. Korean,
Lead us up.
Long time no talk. I have been writing and I've been working. So yes, I have been MIA, as you would say, as a roof Korean. But I do miss all of you, and I try to get on the streams as much as possible. Yeah, I hope you're doing well. I hope your family is doing well, and so good to hear from you. I'll come down from the mountain soon, I promise.
I got to meet him a couple months ago up in Boston. He's a really good guy.
He's a sweetheart. He was on the panel with the Pegasus Actual podcast.
I love those.
Smart, funny.
Yes. Quick-witted.
Yeah. And he loves Battlestar Galactica. He could hold his own with the panel, and it was great.
I loved watching you guys. I never really watched Battlestar a lot, but you guys, just watching you guys discuss it was so much fun. I hope you guys do that again, because it was a lot of fun. Joakim Stark for 20 says, democratically elected toxic man flu dictator.
I second the motion.
Yes, I all in favor? Aye.
Be careful there. Yeah, TMF is liable to change his handle to be reflective of whatever
toxic
comedy.
Dictator.
Yeah, toxic dictator.
Just wait. He will be going to what's tonight? Tonight is Wednesday. No, tomorrow night. Comics Division will have his stream. I bet you his name will be that for that stream. I really hope it's Dictator, because toxic man dictator. That would be the best. What he says right here. Oh no, he's talking about something else. All right, guys, we're gonna close it out. I am going to support you, Raquel, and tell you if anybody had anything against what she was saying, this is my fault. We were going to talk about Wesley Crusher. We were going to talk about Doctor Who. We were going to talk about large asteroids and the Punisher actor, even defending, the Punisher. But I'm really glad we got to have this talk. I really am. I really am glad.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you.
Oh,
it's
good.
Just,
laugh at
I'm
these
somebody
guys.
who reads the chat, and look at what TMF just put up in the chat.
Wait a minute, is it the chairman one?
Yeah,
that is
great.
Chairman flu to you. Yeah. Oh man, now you have to think of a toxic man flu CCP name. Like use CCP in some way.
How about Maoist flu?
Oh,
I mean, you wouldn't be able
flu.
to say it, but it would look hysterical in print.
Toxic mouth flu. I like it. I like it. All right, guys, we are going to get going. Thank you, Raquel.
Oh, thank you for having me, and I just want to say thanks to everyone who tuned in tonight. As I said, I wasn't prepared to talk about social science or talk about philosophy or critical theory or communication theory. It's just I'm not anonymous.
Yeah.
I'm a scholar. I'm an author. You can find me anywhere, and so it's a little bit different for me than it is for many of you when it comes to being called to the carpet to answer a question.
Yeah.
If someone's going to call me to the carpet and answer a question, those answers stick to me. Because I'm not anonymous. I use my real name, and I have credentials, and I am who I am. So I apologize if that offended anyone, but it's a little bit different in my circumstance. And I was asked, and it was answered. So sorry.
And I'm glad you answered it, and you don't have to apologize to anyone. This is my dump. So to you all who have issues with her, Red Gaze, my friend. Anything you are, you said you're launching Bond soon? Is Bond going to be launched soon?
Bonds will be launching the beginning of next year, probably either January or February. But we're going to be putting up the mailing list soon. So keep an eye out for that.
Active today?
Sunsworn Wings of Vengeance is still active today. Yeah, that's still in demand. Thank you very much, Tina, for throwing those links in the chat. I've seen that.
She's the best.
She is the best. Yeah, go check that out if you're into epic space fantasy. Much more heavy, more heavy on the fantasy than the science fiction.
Oh, it's good.
But yeah, it's my passion. I plan on continuing this going. It is, this one in particular is a graphic novel set in between the first and second novels. The second novel is currently being written, but yeah, definitely check that out.
May I please? I beg your pardon. I'm sorry to interrupt you when you're talking. Do you do the art and the story together?
Oh no, I am no artist. Miriam, my friend Katie, is a very very talented artist. She did all the work in Wings of Vengeance, and probably continue to do some more work. On the first novel campaign, we had a visual companion to go along with it. Yeah. I'd like to do something like that with the second one as well.
What a great idea! Publishing, that's definitely a topic that highly interests me, and I think that's really cool. I'm going to check out your work. It was so good to meet you today. I'm sorry for the weird.
I blame Scott for everything.
I don't blame me. No, let's blame Culture. Culture introduced me to everybody, so it's his fault. Have a great night, everybody.
I'm gonna blame during these things.
No, I'm gonna blame Culture. He has short hair. We can blame him. He's not like Samson right now.
Yeah, but you have to bear some responsibility.
I mean, okay. Like,
you don't. But I'm going to put it on you anyway.
Really don't have to. All right, everybody. Have a great night.
Have a great night, everyone.